Hello again, ladies. On we march with literature circles. Now, I'm going to also add to some of this some videos, some YouTube videos will be up with this stuff too, as well on Blackboard. So, literature circles are groups of children who've read the same book, discuss the book independently of the teacher. The teacher models the literature circles. This takes a lot of classroom management. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort on the teacher's part, but this is tremendously useful in a classroom. I started with this, and I had second graders doing literature circles. I would get class sets or groups of books from the Scholastic book orders. They had at that time, 100 years ago, they would have books, and sometimes they were really good classic children's literature for 95 cents a book, and I would get 5 or 10 of them at a time, and I made my own literature packets with them. And I started with one group, and then we broke into two. I narrowed it down so I could manage it. At one time in second grade, when during the year, as the year would go on, I would have 5 or 6 literature circles going on simultaneously in the classroom. And most of the children, I had them reading at their level, just a little above their level. And I used this instead of centers twice a week. We would have centers 3 times a week, literature circles twice a week. So it worked out really well for what I used it for. Now, you have to model this. This have to be model, because they have to know exactly what you expect, exactly what you're looking for, and how you intend for them to do it. And then you rotate and spot check with all of these groups. And what I would do is, when they would have literature circles, one student would be the questioner, one would be the summarizer, one would be the reporter, one would be the discussion leader. They all had a task because they all had to stay on task, and they could check each other and see how it was going. Well, there we go. Reciprocal teaching. Now, this takes a lot of work on your part, but it is a very powerful tool to use. Reciprocal teaching is a guided comprehension strategy in cooperative groups. Children are assigned roles, just as I just said, and after they learn how to use those roles, then they carry it out independently. Until they can do it independently, you work with one group at a time and teach them how to do those roles. This is teacher led at the beginning, teacher model. This is a very powerful tool, though, if you have groups of children who can pull this off. You will not always have an entire class who can do this on the same level, but on some level, they can all do some reciprocal teaching. Buddy reading is a situation in which a child from an upper grade is paired with a child, so perhaps kindergarten, first or second grade. We did this. They do this at the school where, not right now, obviously, but they do this at the school where I'm the board chair. They have the upper graders come down and read to kindergarten, first and second graders. When I taught second grade, my second graders went over and read to kindergartners. They were right across the hall, and they would go and read to those kids. So this is a very effective strategy. Partner reading involves peers reading together, students in the same class reading together, but you have to be very careful how you buddy them up for their partner reads. You need to be very thoughtful about that, because if you have somebody who's a really good reader with somebody who is not as good an adept reader, the one who's really good is just going to take off with it and leave the other one in the dust, and the lower level child is not going to learn anything. You try to get these kids close in their reading abilities and partner them up and let them read together. This is what was happening when I had two kids in first grade. One was a very good reader, one I knew was going to, because she was a very bright little girl. And all of a sudden, the one who read very well stopped reading, and the one who was struggling a bit took off reading. And all of a sudden she realized she was reading all by herself and started running around the room screaming, I can read, I can read. And my kingdom for a video camera right then. But of course, that was a lot of years ago. The think, pair, share strategy. I think you probably know about this one, where the teacher poses a question that students are asked to think, not speak, not blurt out or anything, just think, compose an answer. Then they turn to their shoulder partner or to their desk partner or to their buddy and discuss, and then they share out with the rest of the group, with the rest of the class, or with the rest of their small group. I think a lot of you have already been using that particular strategy. Mental imagery. Ask children to visualize what they see after they've been read to or have had a passage read, or they've read a passage themselves. Right now in the content reading, we are doing, well, we're trying to do a literature study kind of virtually here on the book Number the Stars. And I don't know if you're familiar with that book. It's a very good book. It's a very quick read, actually. It's a Lois Lowry. It takes place in Denmark during World War II. It's a story of two young girls and their friendship. One is a Jew and one is not. And of course, the Jewish people were they were trying to round them up, and how the one young girl who was of the Jewish faith um, had to they had to find a way to get her out of Denmark and onto Sweden. And there are multiple pieces in that book for mental imagery. The one that pops into my mind, because I've just reread the book again in the last couple of weeks, is where they're in school and she's imagining the map of Europe on this at the school on the board, and she's talking about the country of Norway. Norway is pink on the map, and she is imagining a big giant, because Hitler took over Norway, who was supposed to be a neutral country, and she said she was imagining a fist um, slamming down and crushing Norway. And that's mental imagery. We have to get children to make pictures in their mind to remember. We have to give them a connection. They have to have a hook to pull those memories back up. There research has said for years that excuse me, in order for us to remember something, we have to have a hook. We have to get it from our short-term memory into our long-term memory. We have to have a mental hook, if you will, to guide our thinking, so we have a retrieval cue that we can go back and pull that up with. Now, close reading. Close reading involves selecting short passages for close reading or careful analysis. Close reading is you read a passage, not a big passage, but you read a passage. And in that passage, you mark what you want them to do. If you're looking for something that is prediction, or you're looking for inferencing skills, or you're looking for any kind of different kinds of skills, you pull those out. You're studying prepositions, and you go through and do a close read, and you pull out all of the prepositions, whatever you're doing. Then it shouldn't be a daily activity. Once a week is reasonable, but I do have a video up on Blackboard that shows you how to do a close read. Many teachers use this strategy, but they use it in different ways in conjunction with what their children need, what their students in their classroom need, and how they need to use it. Once it says here, once a week is reasonable to spend in second and third grade on a close read, but it can be incorporated into your guided reading lessons. One day is spent on the close reading. A close reading passage is first read by the teacher with the children following. Then the next read can be done with partners, and a third read on their own. What you're doing here basically is you're teasing out important pieces in the passage, but you're doing repeated readings, which are an excellent comprehension strategy. Repeat those readings. Let them get good at them. pull that vocabulary in and let them use that vocabulary and make it their own. This falls right into, besides offering the pleasure of familiarity, a repeated story helps develop concepts about words, print, and books. Furthermore, repeated readings of the same text increase the number, kind, and complexity of the children's responses to text. It allows you as the teacher and they as the students to dig deeper for meaning. Query down, don't just question, dig deep, dig down deep into that meaning and see if you can help them tease out the hidden meanings or the extra things in that text. When you're actively working with text, full comprehension is not the result of imply reading. Students need to engage actively with the text in productive ways that deepen their understanding of the material and their engagement with the text. Too much of the time, all we do is we read a text and we just expect the kids to figure it out, or we read the text and we just slide past it, do the comprehensions at questions at the end of the reading, and we move on. They never dig deep into that text. You never get into their heads to see what they're thinking about or how they're coming up with these answers to the questions. What is their schema? Have you opened the right file folders? Do they indeed have a file folder for this information in which to put these texts and all of these activities that you're using in these texts? Active participation in literacy experiences enhances comprehension and sense of text structure. We have to get these kids actively engaged with the text. There, like I said, we don't do that enough in classrooms. We skim over the top, we do whatever the teacher's guide tells us to do, and we never dig deep enough into the text. They've now chosen a textbook, a reading textbook for the school, and I quite honestly, I have to say, I'm happy with their choice. Um, even though I have not reviewed this particular text. They're staying with the same company, but I know by reputation this reading series, and this reading series delves deeply into the text, and I like that. Some of the other ones, I did look at some of them, and they just sit surface level. They don't dig down. Let me tell you, this is the deal. Our children today, the children that are going to be in your classroom, have to be taught how to be global thinkers. They have to be taught that there's a whole world out there and we are only one step away. You can FaceTime anybody in the world. I can do this. It's up on YouTube. I've already gotten hits for people who weren't even looking at my stuff, with especially with the content area stuff. It's people are looking at stuff. It's out there, it's all over. We have to get these kids to be global thinkers and critical thinkers and creative thinkers. We're going to stop right here, and we will pick up with questions, generating questions, and I will leave you with the same thought as I have before. Please, please, please stay healthy, stay safe, wash your hands, use your hand sanitizer, and don't hoard the toilet paper. And I will talk to you again soon.